Hey, how you doing today, folks? In today's video, I'm going to continue my rewatch series, and we are currently on Season 1, Episode 3. And today I just want to get right into it, so let's get started. Episode 3 starts off with Ned and his daughters arriving at King's Landing. And before he can even get off his horse, he's already being summoned to a small council meeting. And you can actually tell Ned is not going to enjoy his time here. You can take Ned out of the North, but you can't take the North out of Ned. And since he is here, he is going to make his presence felt and not put up with any bullshit. Personally, I miss Ned to death. Not only is he a phenomenal character, but Sean Bean as an actor is even better. And I think he nailed this role. Perfectly casted, if you ask me. But anyways, as Ned heads for the small council meeting, he is greeted by Jaime Lannister in the throne room. And their disdain for each other picks right back up where it left off. And typical Jaime throws a few shots at Ned, basically saying the hand of the king is the king's bitch. But Ned comes back with an even better line, and does to Jaime what Jaime did to Jon, and questions his courage by complimenting his armor. He tells Jaime it's nice and shiny, with not a scratch on it. You must not be fighting anyone, are you, tough guy? But Jaime comes back with a low blow and reminds Ned that the room they are standing in is the same room where Ned's father and brother were murdered by the Mad King. Jaime was there and he did nothing. But Jaime mentions, yeah, I was here, and so were 500 other men, and they didn't do anything as well. And that's when we get another peek at Jaime's past, and Ned more or less calls Jaime a murderer for stabbing the king in the back, the king that he swore an oath to protect. But Jaime said it felt like justice. Although he was sworn to protect him, he couldn't sit on the sidelines as the king went mad and began to murder innocent people. But Ned doesn't believe him. Regardless of the circumstances, Ned's honor runs deep, and he feels Jaime should have upheld his oath no matter what. But I think deep down, Ned is probably happy the king was killed, but he can never give a Lannister credit for it, and rightfully so. We are then introduced to Varys and Littlefinger. Characters that I didn't think much of at first. I had no idea how much power these guys would have without ever picking up a sword. So, let the games begin. Littlefinger then makes it known that him and Lady Catelyn go way back to their time as a child. Littlefinger actually fought Ned's brother Brandon over Lady Catelyn. Something Littlefinger should have probably never brought up. Personally, if it was me, if I meet a man for the first time, the first thing I say to him isn't going to be about how I fought over his wife. But like most things in a show, this conversation will come into play in a later episode. Then they tell Ned to start the meeting without the king. And the first order of business is for Ned to organize a damn tournament with money they don't have. Ned quickly realizes he is running a sinking ship. But what's worse is they are in debt to those goddamn Lannisters. Ned isn't built for this shit. He's not meant to sit at a desk with a pen in his hand. Ned belongs in North with his family, not in some shithole of a city playing in this circus, surrounded by men with no honor or morals. And the next scene is with Cersei and Joffrey. Joffrey is still suffering from his wounds from the last episode when he was attacked by Arya's direwolf, and his wounds are no worse than a damn paper cut. And Cersei tells Joffrey that he can make his own rules and write his own history. That way he can be remembered however he wants to be. Cersei has a damaged mind that has been soaked in corruption for years, that she is now spoon-feeding to Joffrey. She tells him he has to marry Sansa Stark, but it doesn't have to mean anything emotionally. It's simply smoke and mirrors, a chess move to secure the North. She even tells him he only needs to sleep with her to produce an heir. But if he wants to sleep with whores, then there's no problem with that. He will be king, and he can do whatever the hell he wants. Yeah, Cersei is one piece of shit mother who molded Joffrey into the evil bastard that he is. And Joffrey realizes what influence he could have, so he wants to punish the North, all because he feels that the Northerners feel like they are equals to those in King's Landing. He wants to double their taxes and crush those who oppose him. But Cersei does give him a sound piece of advice, though. She tells Joffrey he can't just act blindly out of rage. But his moves have to be strategic. The North isn't going to fight for the king that just killed their brothers. The North is too wild and can't be ruled by an outsider. A good king knows when to save his strength and when to destroy his enemies. Joffrey then asks if she agrees that the Starks are their enemies. Cersei says, anyone who isn't us is our enemies. Cersei now has Joffrey's attention, and from here on out, he is going to rule with an iron fist. So thanks, Mom. Real good job you're doing here. You gave him a taste of power, and the hunger you put inside of him is going to get him killed. Great job. And the next scene is with Arya and Sansa. Arya is still pissed about the altercation she had with Joffrey. She's repeatedly stabbing the table with a knife, wishing it was him. Joffrey has woken the killer inside of her, and this begins Arya's rise to becoming a warrior, and on a mission to avenge those that she is close to. Arya is not playing games, even at this young age. It's beautiful. Arya mentions the Hound here too. She's pissed he murdered the butcher's boy for no good reason, all because that little pussy Joffrey was embarrassed. And that's when Ned shows up and sends Arya to her room. Then he gives Sansa a gift, trying to cheer her up, knowing she is devastated that he had to kill her direwolf lady. But Sansa hates the gift, and says she hasn't played with dolls since she was 8 years old. As if she's grown now, when all she has done is whine like a little girl this entire time. Sansa is very selfish in the beginning, and only concerned with her own desires. She does not put her family first, and she will suffer for this. And then Arya goes back to her room and pulls out Needle, the sword that Jon gave her before he left. She's probably visioning herself puncturing one of Joffrey's lungs. And Ned comes in and tells her a lady shouldn't play with swords. It's not a toy. But Arya makes it known she will never be a lady. Arya is going to be Lyanna Stark 2.0. And that's when Arya starts naming off everyone that she hates. The Hound, the King and the Queen, and Joffrey. She's already making a mental note and preparing her hit list. She even says Sansa. What sucks is, Ned has to tell her that Sansa and Joffrey will be married one day, and she must stand by her king, even when he's wrong. What a terrible situation to be in, and a terrible situation you have to let your daughter be in. Arya even asks Ned, how can you let her marry someone like that? And Ned can't even give her a straight answer. I wish Ned would have just pulled King Robert to the side and said, look here, we're good friends, so I want to speak to you man to man. Your son is no good for my daughter. You know this. Think about how you felt about Lyanna and what you would have done for her. And look at how your son is treating my daughter. As a close friend and damn near brother, how can you allow this, my grace? I think Robert would have put Joffrey in check real quick. At least I believe so, if Ned would only have said the word. But anyways, the next scene is back in Winterfell, where Bran is in bed still recovering from his injuries, and he's accompanied by Old Nan. But the beginning of this scene starts off with a crow landing in the window, and Bran looks over to it, and having seen the show now, I now know that the bird in the window is the three-eyed raven. But Old Nan says something very interesting here that I just now realized. As the crow is in the window making noises, Nan says, don't listen to it. Crows are all liars. Do you think the three-eyed raven has been lying to Bran this entire time? Everything that Old Nan tells Bran in his scene has eventually came true. Do you think she has been telling us something here this whole time by telling Bran not to listen to the crow? I'm thinking this has some deeper meaning to it now that I think about it. What do you guys think about this? She says she knows a story about a crow, but Bran doesn't want to hear it. I'm wondering what the hell that story was. But anyways, Bran says he hates her stories unless she wants to tell him a scary one. He says the scary ones are his favorite stories. Nan says something pretty damn great here. She says, what do you know about fear? Fear is for the winter, when the snow falls 100 feet deep. Fear is for the long night, when the sun hides for years and children are born and live and die, all in darkness. That is the time for fear, my little lord, when the White Walkers move through the woods. Thousands of years ago there came a night that lasted a generation. Kings froze to death in their castles, same as the shepherds in their huts. Women smothered their babies rather than to see them starve, and wept and felt the tears freeze on their cheeks. So is this the sort of story you like? Bran nods his head yes, but he is scared shitless. She then says, in that darkness, the White Walkers came for the first time. They swept through cities and kingdoms, riding their dead horses, hunting with their packs of pale spiders as big as hounds. Robb then bursts in the room, and Nan stops the story. Damn it, Robb! That story was amazing and you ruined it. God, what an incredible scene and dialogue from Old Nan. The words were terrifying. Old Nan was dropping some knowledge on Bran, and you know she knows some crazy shit. I could listen to those stories from her all day. I love this scene, absolutely one of my favorite pieces of dialogue in the entire show. And Robb tells Bran one time Old Nan told him that the sky is blue because they live inside of a blue-eyed giant named Macomber. Bran says, maybe we do. I think Old Nan has him scared, but believing. And Robb asks Bran about his accident, but Bran doesn't remember anything. Robb knows he couldn't have fell, not only because of his mother's suspicion, but because he has seen Bran climb 1,000 times. Bran knows Winterfell's walls like the back of his hand and wouldn't have fell. But Bran says he did, and he knows he will never walk again, so he says he would rather be dead. And it's kind of a damn shame. If you remember the scenes of Bran climbing the walls, he could have been one hell of a ninja warrior. But anyways, let's go to the next scene, when we see Lady Catelyn and Sir Roderick arrive at King's Landing. They're on a mission to see Ned to alert him about her findings at the tower where Bran fell. Ned must know that the Lannisters are responsible for Bran's fall. What's funny is Lady Catelyn wanted to stay low-key as she was in King's Landing, but she didn't try very hard. All she did was put a scarf over her hair. And the second she arrives, her cover is already blown. They've been expecting her, or should I say Littlefinger's been expecting her. Littlefinger has eyes and ears everywhere. Littlefinger is the type of neighbor who peeks through his blinds all day as you're just trying to chill on your front porch. He's a nibshit, but it's his power move that's been very successful for him thus far. Littlefinger then reveals that his eyes and ears was actually Varys, who too knows Lady Catelyn from way back in the day. And Littlefinger and Varys may not look threatening, but these are two of the most powerful men in Westeros. Knowledge is their power. And Varys asked Lady Catelyn if she brought the dagger that was used to try and kill Bran with. And she's taken by surprise that he would even ask this, considering no one should really know about this. But Varys has his little birds everywhere, even in the north. And Littlefinger claims that the dagger is his, but he said he lost this dagger during a bet he had when Jaime was in a jousting tournament and lost on Prince Joffrey's name day. He said he lost the dagger to Tyrion Lannister. But can you ever really believe a word that comes out of Littlefinger's mouth? But regardless, things are really starting to heat up. Which takes us to Tyrion, where him and Jon are at the wall, and Jon is training to become a member of the Night's Watch, and Jon is kicking ass and taking names. Jon has had training his whole life, and most of these men have never even held a sword. And I gotta be honest, these training scenes remind me of when I was in the army during basic training. Other than the swords, it looks and feels just like it, and Alistair Thorne acts just like a goddamn drill sergeant, who shits on Jon every chance he gets. Yep, the good old days of being a fresh recruit, living in a miserable place with people you don't know and you might not even like. It certainly reminds me of boot camp. But back at King's Landing, Littlefinger tells Ned that his wife is in King's Landing, which takes Ned by surprise. He has no idea what's going on. And when Ned realizes Littlefinger has his wife hiding out in a whorehouse, Ned grabs him by the throat. It's just too bad Ned didn't put him out of his misery right here. It would have saved him and his family a whole lot of problems. But then the scene quickly switches right back to Jon at the wall, after he just broke Gren's nose during a training exercise. And that's when Gren, Pip, and the rapist grab Jon up and put a blade to his throat. Gren threatens to throw Jon off the top of the wall, but thankfully Tyrion walks in before things get out of hand, and Tyrion finally uses his power for some good. Tyrion threatens them, saying they have very distinctive faces that he would remember, and that they would look marvelous on spikes decorating King's Landing. And that's when Jon realizes that Tyrion is his only friend right now, and he can't believe no one but him told him the truth about the Night's Watch. He can't believe Ned would let him go there and rot away in this shithole, surrounded by criminals. But Tyrion has good news as well. Bran has woken up from his coma. Then we jump right back to King's Landing, where Catelyn just revealed to Ned about the truth with Bran's fall. But Ned quickly realizes the proof they have isn't enough for justice. But Littlefinger promises to help, and Catelyn swears he can be trusted. But by the look on Ned's face, he doesn't feel the same way. And this is when the plot thickens and things are really starting to heat up. The pressure is on and Ned must act quick. But how? We then see Jaime and Cersei. Cersei is pissed, knowing Jaime made a mistake by pushing Bran out the window, now considering he survived a fall in an assassination attempt. Cersei is worried he will remember who did this and will tell Ned, but Jaime is willing to go to war over this. Jaime is willing to kill Ned, Bran, the king, and anyone else that gets in the way of him being with his sister. The things men do for love. And in the next scene, there is some major foreshadowing here, but it is very subtle, and there was really no way for you to tell this until you have seen it play out and then rewatched it again like I am. And this is when Ned sends Catelyn off for Winterfell. But the way this scene was shot, you can tell this is going to be the last time they would ever see each other. The camera focuses in on Ned's face for a little too long, as he has this look of concern. He may have even knew this could be the last time that we are going to speak. And it's kind of damn sad. Even though Lady Catelyn was a bitch to Jon, she's still a great character, and Ned definitely loves her. So it's kind of sad to know that this will be the last time they're going to see each other. But the next scene is pretty cool. King Robert and Sir Barristan Selmy are just hanging out, trading war stories. Then that's when comes Jaime Lannister. And finally, someone insults him, just like he has been doing to everyone else. And Robert questions his honor, his courage, and his loyalty. Robert asks him if King Aerys said anything before he stabbed him in the back. And Jaime says he said the same thing he had been saying for hours. Burn them all. And this actually leaves Robert speechless, with a bit of a shocked look on his face. I think in that moment, Robert might have felt Jaime did have a good reason to kill him, and that the Mad King was worse than he could have ever imagined. Now you have to start to question Jaime's motive for killing the king. Was it justice, or is Jaime full of shit? Only time may tell. But then we go across the ocean and get our first scene with Daenerys in this episode. And she is traveling with the Dothraki horde. And Jorah Mormont is teaching her the Dothraki way. And she is actually starting to feel more comfortable with them. Comfortable enough to start giving commands, which she commands them to stop marching, which pisses her brother Viserys off. He is supposed to be the one commanding the army, that he was supposed to get in return for providing Khal Drogo with a wife. But the Dothraki aren't taking any orders from her punk brother. And as Viserys is threatening Daenerys, one of the Dothraki wrap a whip around his throat and offer to kill him if Dany gives the order. So I think Viserys is starting to get the hint. He has no more moves here, and there is nothing he can do to ever get control of the Dothraki. His time is up. But back at the wall, Jon takes his first ride on the elevator to the top of the wall where his uncle Benjen is waiting for him. Jon is going to stand on top of the wall and look north for the first time, and Benjen wanted to be there for it. And the view is incredible. He might as well be standing on top of the world. But then you wonder, what else is lurking beyond the wall? What else is out there hiding, waiting to attack? Benjen tells Jon he has to go on a mission north of the wall. There has been some disturbing reports that he doesn't want to believe. And Jon wants to go with him, but Benjen knows he isn't ready. Beating untrained men with wooden swords means nothing to him. It's too dangerous for Jon right now. And Benjen goes downstairs and has a talk with Tyrion. Tyrion says again he doesn't believe all the stories about the giants and ghouls that may be north of the wall. But Benjen says, wildlings isn't what gives me sleepless nights. He says there is much more than that north of the wall. Benjen is basically saying he has seen the White Walkers, which is kind of strange because no one else there seems to believe it. You'd think Benjen would warn his brother Ned about the danger beyond the wall. I think Ned would definitely believe his brother. And sometimes I question Uncle Benjen's motives. I wonder what his relationship is really like with the others beyond the wall. You have to wonder who Benjen may really be working for. There's already one member of the Night's Watch north of the wall working with the Night's King, who is Craster. I wonder how many other men of the Night's Watch is working for him secretly as well. But then we find out Daenerys is pregnant, and Jorah Mormont's eyes light up like the 4th of July. and he leaves the Dothraki horde immediately for Quahar, so he can send this information back to Varys, who will then tell King Robert, who is not going to be happy that Targaryens are breeding. And back at Winterfell, back at the Wall, Jon is starting to take on a leadership role, and he's now training Grenn instead of just kicking his ass, which is smart because they are going to need each other in the future, so they cannot be enemies. They're going to need each other to fight side by side in the foxhole. Then Tyrion, Maester Aemon, and Lord Commander Mormont discuss the danger that lies ahead. Reports from the Citadel state that winter is near, and this one will be long. And the wildlings are getting closer and closer to the Wall. They desperately want south, and they claim that they have seen the White Walkers. Lord Commander Mormont talks as if he doesn't know whether it's true or not. But this sneaky bastard knows Craster is out there sacrificing his babies for the Night's King. So what the hell are his intentions? Does he really think the Wall is going to protect them forever? These guys are really taking a big gamble with humanity, allowing the White Walkers to continue to grow. But not all hope is lost. Tyrion does get his wish. He goes atop the Wall and pisses off the edge of the world. And I wonder if all that travel in the cold was worth it. Tyrion's a fool, man. And this is when Jon and Tyrion say their goodbyes, as Tyrion heads out for King's Landing. Jon asks Tyrion to deliver a message to Bran and tell him that he misses him, which Tyrion is glad to do. Tyrion and Jon have now formed a bond and give each other the proper respects as they say goodbye, which is nice to see considering these are my two favorite characters. I'm looking forward to seeing how their relationship continues to grow in Season 7. But next, we see Arya has taken her father's advice, that if she is going to carry a sword, she better learn how to carry it. And she begins her training with the late, great Syrio Forel, who speaks of Braavos and plants the seed in Arya's mind. And today is the first day of Arya's path of vengeance. And Ned stands off in the distance, pleased to see Arya is enjoying herself. But then his face begins to change, like a soldier that is shell-shocked or with PTSD. This reminds Ned of something that causes him fear. And that's when the episode ends. So, tell me what you guys think about this episode. What did you like? What did you dislike? Was there other foreshadowing scenes in this episode that I may have missed? Any important things that I may have missed? If there is, please let me know. I try to do my best to pick up on everything and tell you guys about all these things in this rewatch series. I hope you guys are enjoying this. Episode 3 was a pretty damn good episode, but like I said in the previous video, Season 1 may be my favorite season. Even though it wasn't 100% accurate to the books, but the first season was pretty damn close. And you can see that George R.R. Martin had his fingerprints all over this season, which I love, which makes this one of the best seasons in television history, if you ask me. But thank you guys for listening. Leave your comments below and tell me what you think about this stuff. I'm glad you guys listened. Thanks for checking it out. Thanks for checking out all my other videos. And I'll see you guys for episode 4. See ya. But Jaime said it felt like justice. Although he was sworn to protect him, he couldn't sit on the sidelines as the king went mad and began to murder innocent people. But Ned doesn't believe him. Regardless of the circumstances, Ned's honor runs deep, and he feels Jaime should have upheld his oath no matter what. But I think deep down, Ned is probably happy the king was killed, but he can never give a Lannister credit for it, and rightfully so. We are then introduced to Varys going to enjoy his time here. You can take Ned out of the North, but you can't take the North out of Ned. And since he is here, he is going to make his presence felt and not put up with any bullshit. Personally, I miss Ned to death. Not only is he a phenomenal character, but Sean Bean as an actor is even better. And I think he nailed this role. Perfectly casted, if you ask me. But anyways, as Ned heads for the small council meeting, he is greeted by Jaime Lannister in the throne room. And their disdain for each other picks right back up where it left off. And typical Jaime throws a few shots at Ned, basically saying the hand of the king is the king's bitch. But Ned comes back with an even better line, and does to Jaime what Jaime did to Jon, and questions his courage by complimenting his armor, He tells Jaime it's nice and shiny, with not a scratch on it. You must not be fighting anyone, are you, tough guy? But hey, how you doing today, folks? In today's video, I'm going to continue my rewatch series, and we are currently on Season 1, Episode 3. And today I just want to get right into it, so let's get started. Episode 3 starts off with Ned and his daughters arriving at King's Landing. And before he can even get off his horse, he's already being summoned to a small council meeting. And you can actually tell Ned is not. Jaime comes back with a low blow and reminds Ned that the room they are standing in is the same room where Ned's father and brother were murdered by the Mad King. Jaime was there and he did nothing. But Jaime mentions, yeah, I was here, and so were 500 other men, and they didn't do anything as well. And that's when we get another peek at Jaime's past, and Ned more or less calls Jaime a murderer for stabbing the king in the back, the king that he swore an oath to protect.